So the short answer is nobody knows.
Do what?
I said the short answer is nobody knows what's causing that. I'm like, well, then maybe we should find somebody who can figure it out. Yeah. I mean, what would happen if every pipe in the organ came on and just sustained? Would that bother you?
That's happened in my church. Lightning hit the organ in 2001, and it caused every single pipe to open up. Every single pipe.
Oh, my goodness.
And
Does that sound bad?
I had a student that was practicing one late night because I was out of town. I was at the retreat, and he called me. He said, panic. All he was up and also boom hit the church steeple, and caused every single pipe to go. He almost came out of his skin.
That would do it. Oh man, I can't imagine.
He was on commission for like almost 6 months.
Wow. And was it because the organ happened to be on at the time? If it had been off, maybe
I
that wouldn't
have
have
no
happened?
idea, but it wasn't grounded.
Oh,
System.
my.
It just fried the system.
Wow.
Which is fine because we got a new one.
Yeah. Spontaneous missing.
I'll tell you what.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos.
One of the most incredible things about Jewish prayer practice is that if you know what to listen for, you can almost always tell what service is being performed, whether it's morning or evening, a holiday, or what's called chol, meaning profane, or basically not a holiday. The high holy days are no exception to this, and while I'm sure that not every one of you could easily reproduce all the high holiday motifs off the top of your head, you're going to recognize them when you hear them. The tune we just sang was popularized to the level of ubiquity that it has now during the high holidays in Central Europe by Zalman Sulzer and Louis Lewandowski. But make no mistake, even though that was in 19th century Germany, it has much older roots, about 1,000 years older than that. This tune demarcates the high holidays, specifically the evening service, and is used repetitively throughout in Baruch Hu, in the Chatzi Kaddish, and while it's not technically the high holidays yet today, we are going to sing that melody once more tonight to get into the high holiday spirit. But for now, we turn to page 120 in our blue prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, for our Shabbat candle blessing. Baruch אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, מציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat. And for those who are able, we rise for our Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'asei bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zeichel litziat Mitzrayim kivanu bacharta beotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen and l'chaim. You may be seated. Still a COVID cup. We turn to page 127 in our blue prayer books. For the people who just came in, we read together. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. And we continue on page 138 with Lecha Dodi. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha tishmianu, el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litila. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei el-chakim, mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'asei b'makasham batechila. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechandodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לחנדונתי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנדונתי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. We rise and welcome the Shabbat bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובשורה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה לחנדונתי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנדונתי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Please be seated. We continue on page 145, reading together at the bottom. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. The Chatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה, ואמרו Amen. And for those who are able, we rise for Baruch Hu on the next page. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai. Please be seated. We read in the Hebrew on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla. Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And we continue with Ahavat Olam on page 150. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu uvkumeinu, nasiach mechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נחגה יומם ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני Adonai echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. One of the places that most commonly is given a special holiday nusach in any given holiday service is Mi Chamochah. You might recall hearing tunes such as Mi Chamochah Ba'elim Adonai, or Mi Chamochah Ba'elim Adonai. These are each tunes specific to a holiday. So tonight we are going to use the high holiday melody that we practiced earlier for our prayer of redemption on page 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchutecha ra'u banecha, mokei hayam, לפני משה ומרים, שאלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר Kifat Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo mi'ad chazak mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Israel. We read together on the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. On the next page. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, V'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, V'hamideinu shomreinu on the next page. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Our Shabbat prayer, Vishameru. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini ubein bnei Yisrael oti le'olam le'olam ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash. Page 165, we are about to head into our Amidah, our standing tefillah on page 166. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will, and for those who are able, we rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Le'ma'an Shemo be'ahava Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayei Meitim Atah Rav leHoshia Morit Atal Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayei Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gevurot umido melach melech meimit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. For those whose customs it is, you may be seated. And we read on the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Ritzei on the next page. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael. Bechonenu shevoch ruchacha aleinu betechezena eineinu beshuvcha letzion. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Betov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Ata Adonai, Ambarech et Amo Yisrael, Bashalom. We take a few moments for silent prayer. Yihul ratzon imre fi. Yihul ratzon imre fi. Megion lipi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri vekoali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh shalom imromav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, me'imeru, me'imeru, amen. While you did not hear it tonight, one thing that you will notice about the Amidah portion of our Rosh Hashanah service is that there is much more content than there normally is. Not a surprise. In fact, one of the largest additions to a high holiday service is in the Amidah. A few small textual insertions are made, like in Avot v'Imahot, you'll hear the choir sing Zochreinu in the middle, or in Sim Shalom, we add a line in which we ask to be inscribed in the Book of Life. But the biggest insertion to the Amidah is a long liturgical poem called a piyut, and this poem is called Unetana Tokef. This poem is added to the blessing in the Amidah that speaks to the holiness of the day itself. The equivalent blessing in a Shabbat service would include Yismechu or V'shameru, in which we talk about Shabbat. We at Temple Emanu-El only do a fraction of the entire text of this poem, but it still takes at least 10 or 15 minutes to sing through. So you can only imagine how long it would take if we did the whole thing, probably 30 to 50 minutes, depending on the rendition. This poem is a deeply meaningful prayer, if sometimes confounding for Reformed Jews theologically. It has us reflect on the nature of life and death, on God's shepherding the people Israel. There's so much going on during a Rosh Hashanah service that sometimes it's hard to notice it all. But on Tuesday, I'd like you to listen out for these small changes, and hopefully that can help to elevate your prayer experience. We've now come to the part of our service in which we think of those in our community in need of healing, body or spirit. The congregation sends its best well wishes to Linda Applebaum, Cindy Silberman Bailey, Sophia Barry, Margaret Bell, Harold Seitlin, Deborah Chargois, Karen Edwards, Ruth Grafman Fromstein, Edward Goldberg, Barbara Goldstone, Elaine Gross, Josie Hatfield, Evelyn Held, Donald and Maida Himmel, Norma Jill Jacobson, Corey Kessler, Lanny Klein, Bart Kolber, Jerry Lapidus, Wayne Lewis, Jeffrey Muss, David Siegel, Liz Slive, Christy St. Charles, Brenda Weinstein, Jesse Weisberg, and Elisa Rosemore Whitehead. If there are other people you are thinking of, please feel free to rise and share their name or not. We also especially want to think of those who were hurt or displaced by Hurricane Ida along the Gulf or further up the East Coast. And we sing our Shebeirach on page 371. Shebeirach Avoteinu Mekor habracha le'imoteinu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi Shebeirach Ibmoteinu Mekor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Speaking of elevating our prayer, as hopefully some of that information will do for high holidays, we rise on page 586 for our Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. The congregation remembers the following yahrzeits this week: Max Alpert, Morris Barstein, Maurice Berger, Sadie Berman, Arthur Berman, Helen Berman, Bertha Berman, Ann K. Cohen, Celia Cooperman, Gerald Gashi Dorsky, Robert Eisner, Mervyn Epsman, Ida Rose Friedman, Richard Friedman, Elsie Ginsberg, Stanley Gold, Eleanor Goldblatt, Florence Goldstein, Muriel B. Goldstein, David J. Goldstein, Don Goldstein Jr., Beatrice S. Gordon, Solomon Grabov, Isidore Greenhouse, Julia Hannon, Joanne Goldstein Hornick, Melvin David Jacobs, Sylvia Jacobs, Ruth Jacobs, Jeanette Koppel, Rebecca Krensman Lefkowitz, Jack Levin, Jerome Meyer, Freda Miller, Molly C. Newman, Lillian L. Rothschild, Carl Schwartz, Irvin F. Siegel, Evelyn Warner Silverstein, Celia Ayland Simon, Leopold M. Sonnabend, Robert Spielberger, Isidore H. Sugarman, Charles Weinstein, and Ellen E. Weicker. The congregation also sends its heartfelt condolences on the recent passings of Bradley Block, uncle of Meredith and Daniel O'Drezen, cousin of Alan and Sandra Berman, and Robert and Allison Berman. Priscilla Leaf, mother of Brian and Heather. Bennett and Tucker Meads, friends of Jody Robinson. Susie Ovson, sister of Kathy Friedman and David Ovson. Steve Petrovsky, nephew of Mark Petrovsky. Margaret Sisson, mother of Jane Siegel and Lester. Pauline Cohen Witt, mother of Elaine Witt. If there are others you are thinking of, please feel free to share a name. If not, we rise as a holy community to together recite the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru Amen. You may be seated. We conclude our service on page 625 with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach beterem kol yetzir nivra le'et nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית ובלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת ישן ועירה, ועם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Maybe there's one still in the